Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
So you got Ben, man like Ben Iqra, and Martin. How are you? Been a while.
I'm good, bro. I'm a little nervous, but other than that, I'm good.
Don't worry about it. Just look at this screen and don't worry about what everyone else is saying.
Well, I'm sure people are going to be wondering how you're doing. I guess we haven't seen you. You did the stream after Umrah, didn't you? Well, obviously, our Umrah stream.
On screen.
You came on another one, didn't you? I think. But how's life? All good?
Yeah, alhamdulillah, can't complain. I'm working from home. It's not too bad. Sitting in the conservatory every day and, yeah.
Enjoying the lockdown.
I wouldn't go that far.
I'm just chilling, mate.
I think for me, the first week was good, but now I'm thinking, wow, I need to start doing something. But these streams, mashallah, keep me going, that's for sure. So welcome to those that joined. I wanted to do a bit of a disclaimer from all three of us first, because obviously this is it's a topic that obviously there's a general consensus of it, but there are also difference of opinions. We are not scholars. We're not students of knowledge. We are people that have embraced Islam, that all actually have tattoos and sort of our experiences with it. So we will. So I urge everyone to do their own research if you want to look into the real sort of scholarly opinions on tattoos. But I think should we start, Ben? I think Martin will come back in a second. Should we start by maybe talking about the tattoos in Islam in terms of I know there's some plenty of hadith on it, isn't there?
Yeah, there's loads. So I mean, like Jordan said, we're not scholars. We can't give any Islamic rules. What we will do is we will give you our accounts as practicing Muslims and what we've looked at and followed. So from what I've looked at, the consensus of the mainstream Sunni Muslims is that tattooing, getting tattoos, and tattooing someone is something that the Prophet, peace upon him, forbade. So that makes it haram in the religion. So that's what I believe, and that's what, with the evidence I've seen, and that's what I follow, and that's what a lot of people think as well, and that's what we're going to explore today. What that means to reverts to new Muslims and to non-Muslims becoming a Muslim, what they experience, and what the average Joe Blogs Muslim, like, how they react, and what the realities of that is, and the impacts of what some born Muslims can say to a revert of tattoos and have a big effect on that person without any real knowledge behind the whole subject as a whole. For example, saying to a revert, you should get that removed, and things like that, without any knowing how to remove it, what it costs. Are you meant to remove it? Is there a ruling that you have to remove it? All that sort of thing. Okay, that's what we're going to explore today. Let's start with a hadith, so we're not making it up. I don't know if you can post it, Jordan, or. Did you have one ready to read, or do you want me to read it?
No, go on. If you put it in the private chat, I can post it. But I think if you read it, it's fine. I think
I've actually lost it. We might have to do it again.
Is it the one? Let me just have a look.
It was the one with there we go. I found it. Okay, so the reason there's lots and lots of hadiths where mentioning tattoos. The reason I chose this one is because this hadith is about the companions talking about what the Prophet said, peace upon him, after he died. So this is in Sahih Bukhari, narrated by Abu Huraira, and this is an English translation. So a woman who used to practice tattooing was brought to Umar radiyallahu anhu. Umar got up and said, beseech you by Allah, which of you heard the Prophet, peace upon him, saying something about tattooing? And I got up, and the person saying I got up is Abu Huraira. Abu Huraira got up. Chief of the believers, I heard something, he said. What did you hear? Umar said. I heard, Abu Huraira said, I heard the Prophet, peace upon him, saying, do not practice tattooing and do not get yourselves tattooed. Okay, so do not practice tattooing. Don't be a tattoo artist, and don't get a tattoo yourself. Now, all of the hadiths that I've seen, they mention getting tattoos and giving tattoos, not having a tattoo on your body. Okay, so the sin is getting the tattoo, the sin is doing the tattoo. Okay, So that's the thing to keep in mind. So what are your guys' thoughts so far?
Yeah, Martin, did you want to add to that at all?
No, well, we've had a chat prior to this stream and exactly that, but it's the getting it and giving it, not the having it prior to Islam is the ruling as I see it.
Yeah, and I think we'll end up sort of going into, because I know there are various opinions on, even once you have a tattoo, there are still opinions on what one should do. And like I say, we're not in a position to really say which either way. I've got one hadith here, which is probably, I think is the most one that came up for me, which is, may Allah curse the women who do tattoos and those whom tattoos are done, those who pluck their eyebrows and those who file their teeth for the purpose of beautification and alter the creation of Allah. So I've always liked in Islam, I've always liked the idea that our bodies are rented to us.
Yeah.
And so we should look after them, keep them healthy, not change the creation of Allah. And then as we go back, we are as we came in. So yeah, I think in terms of the principles of not doing various things, piercings, tattoos your body, it seems fairly clear that Islam is advising against it, isn't it?
Jordan, just a quick one. Do you mind giving the source for the hadith? People are asking for it, but that hadith is repeated so many times, by the way.
Narrated by Abdullah ibn Masud, it's al-Bukhari.
Cool, awesome. Right. So I think the main reason we're doing this stream is, let me explain myself and why I'm on this stream. I used to manage a tattoo parlor. I wasn't a tattooist myself, but I used to manage a tattoo parlor from a really young age all the way to becoming a Muslim. I was in the tattoo culture, so to speak, the alternative culture. I know what the behind the scenes is. I know the realities of the tattoo procedure itself. I know the realities of removing the tattoos. So yeah, that's what I'm here to offer. So yeah, and so the reason we're doing this stream is because when someone accepts Islam, some people don't become Muslim, and their barrier is because they got tattoos and they feel bad, or they feel like they're exiled because they look so different. And some reverts get experiences of getting judged by born Muslims because of their ignorance of the ruling and their ignorance of the procedure of tattooing and getting rid of tattoos. So comments like I remember Isa, that went on Umrah, posted his picture at Umrah wearing the clothes of the pilgrimage, yeah. And comments below, mashallah, subhanallah, and then you just get someone go, "Oh, brother, tattoos are haram. You should get rid of them." On Umrah, bro. Yeah. What are you doing? So the reality is, guys. Sorry, I can hear something hissing in the background. So the reality is, guys, when you become a Muslim, when you've lived a life of haram, non-Muslim, and you accept Islam, Allah wipes all the sins away from your slate. In fact, He makes them into good sins, good deeds. Sorry. So when we sin, Allah is so merciful, it's covered. So if I sinned this morning, maybe I did something bad, yeah, you can't see that sin on me. Okay, Allah covers it. It's within myself, unless I tell you that sin, which is not really allowed. But tattooing, unfortunately, you can see it, unfortunately. And that was a previous sin that you can see, and we can't help that. Okay, yeah. So I really urge the Muslim Ummah, yeah, the born Muslims that maybe don't understand it, or maybe from a culture that tattoos are really weird and unusual and alien, to have a bit of empathy, because in our culture, in the English non-Muslim culture, tattoos are normal. Nearly everyone has them, man. Nearly everyone, especially our generation, yeah. Nearly everyone has at least one tattoo. It's a normal thing. So when non-Muslims become Muslim, you're gonna get that. You're gonna get people. People stretch their ears, they have a piercing and they'll have a big disc. So when they become Muslim, they're gonna have a big old baggy hole there, aren't they? So you know what I mean. Don't judge people. Don't judge people. Don't think the worst of them. And the last thing a Muslim wants, like a new Muslim, after being a Muslim for about, let's say, a month, brother, tattoo haram. He's not even praying 5 times a day yet, mate. Like, Let's think of the best of the Muslim brother. Get to know that revert first. Find out his story. Don't want to tell him what's haram and halal. Get to know him. Find out about him. Sorry, that was a bit of a rant there.
Interest, and it's mashallah. I can see you're passionate about the topic there as well. And I think that when I was looking into this topic, so I typed in revert tattoos in Google, and it came across some Muslim forums, and they were asking questions. There was a question that said, would you allow your daughter to marry a revert who has a tattoo? Do tattoos invalidate your prayers? I saw. And there was another one as well. But there seems to be a general, a real kind of feeling that the tattoos are still somehow, I'm not going to say haram, but they're still not really accepted. Martin, is that something you've experienced, and why do you think that maybe exists? And I don't think it's amongst everybody, but I think there's certain a portion of people who, and we experienced it in Umrah, didn't we, where people will come up to you with your tattoos and say, "Brother, do you know that's haram? Do you know?"
Yeah, 100%. I excuse me, sorry. Been blessed to go Umrah twice. The first time I went, I actually went to Jordan and that was probably the worst experience I had, of people literally grabbing my arm and going, "Take it off, haram, haram." And it's demoralizing. There's a person who's completely changed your ways, your life, your everything, for people to be so ignorant and just go and well, not ignorant. They've never seen it in their lives. And it's like when Sonny Bill did Umrah himself, and he had all the comments underneath because he's wearing his ihram, and all the comments are like, "Oh, your tattoos is disgusting. You shouldn't show it." And a Mufti Menk came round and said, "No, this was before he became a Muslim, so everything's forgiven." Sorry.
Well, that's funny.
And yeah, like you said, when we were in Umrah the second time, when I went with you guys, I purposely wore longer sleeves, because even though I was sweating like crazy and boiling hot, because I didn't want the attention. And I think if you notice with Issa, he got quite a lot of attention from people just coming up to him and asking him. But
people asked him, "Are you on Umrah?"
Yeah. Brother. He's in Medina, where no non-Muslims, only Muslims are allowed, and he was asked, "Brother, are you Muslim?"
Alhamdulillah, we had Imran and Anis and Ayaz and stuff, and they could educate the because they could speak different languages, they could educate the people there, and you could see them taking it in and actually going, "Oh, actually, I didn't realize it was before then." And then they go back to their family and explain it to them. So you could see them walk away, and they're pointing over, talking to their wives and daughters and stuff, and explaining, "Oh, this is why they've got it." So that was an amazing experience to be able to see that this time. The first time I went on my own with, I was on a bus with probably 49 Pakistani and Bengali people who I educated on the bus, but then they didn't go and spread the word. So that's what I loved about going with the EFDawah, was the fact that we could educate. And my voice is going for some reason. So
don't worry about it.
Excuse me, sorry.
Go on, Martin.
No, I was going to say, but from a personal experience, well, Ben's had. I was going to jump to taking them off, but maybe we'll come to that later. But
yeah, that's definitely.
We've already had questions. We've already had people say, "Why can't you take them off?" We'll come to that.
Get onto that. Yeah. Do you guys think? Because obviously we're talking about maybe the attitudes towards, or lack of knowledge, or lack of understanding from born Muslims. Do you feel that it's kind of our job to maybe use hikmah and tell people, actually these, because obviously you probably get to a point where you guys are sick of it and you say, it's a I had these before my shahada, it's fine. Or do you think it's so do you think it's a duty of the born Muslim to have a bit more understanding, or do you think it's a duty of the revert to actually explain to them?
So I think if the born Muslims living in the UK, I think it's a duty of the born Muslim to understand, and the revert to explain. They need a bit of patience, but what shouldn't be happening is it's still happening. Tattoos have been common since like late 80s, early 90s. And when I say common, I mean a lot of people getting them. Obviously, they've existed all the way to, like Roman times, but they've been very common from late 80s, early 90s. Muslims, British people, English people, or non-Muslims have becoming Muslim since then. What you're doing? It's been 30 years. Learn, because and I think as a revert, you need that patience, because it is our job to kind of show the born Muslims that this isn't your nation's religion. This is religions for all mankind, and we're becoming Muslim. You've lived in like your previous like grandfathers or whatever came here. Alhamdulillah, they built masjids and stuff. But the English population are becoming Muslim now, and they come with their they come with that. Do you know what I mean? You can't rub these sins off physically, but Allah has wiped them spiritually, and that's what needs. And I think actually hearing that story, Martin, of that it was explained to them and they went away and told their family. Alhamdulillah, that's the attitude. It's fine if you don't know, you don't know. But when there's more, like Islam's the fastest growing religion, they say. There's more people becoming Muslim. You're going to get more people becoming Muslim who have different backgrounds and different looks and stuff. And you're going to have to apply Islam to a different culture, just like back in the day when Islam expanded. Islam isn't your culture. Islam is the religion from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all people, all mankind. So I'm rambling now. No,
I agree. I think one of the comments I saw on there actually, and it goes on what you're saying, is there was actually somebody asking online, can I convert to Islam if I have tattoos? So that just
there's people that don't.
Yeah, there may be a fear, particularly if you've got, some people may have neck tattoos or facial tattoos or on their hands that aren't easily covered. They know they're going to walk into a masjid, and if they're going to walk into a place of that's haram, brother, every time, I imagine that revert's probably going to avoid going. So I think it is a very important topic that we're discussing.
It is. So I'm just going to have a quick look at the comments, see if there's any questions. If you've got any questions, feel free to ask. Sorry if we can't answer them. There's a lot of comments dropping down.
Somebody did say tattoos are haram. Yeah, I think we need to repeat it for people who can relate. 100% tattoos are haram.
There was only 30 odd people when we first started. So let's repeat it again. So we are not claiming that we are scholars and we know, we're not even students of knowledge. We're just practicing Muslims, revert Muslims. Okay, we're not telling you any fatwas, but what we're saying is the consensus of the scholars are that getting tattoos and tattooing someone is a haram practice. It's forbidden by the Prophet, peace upon him, and we even given some hadiths for that. But it's not that if you've got them, that's it. Do you know what I mean? Allah, when you become a Muslim, Allah wipes all the sins that you have committed in the past. And the sin, remember, isn't having the tattoo. It's getting the tattoo done or tattooing someone from these hadiths that we can see. So that sin that we commit when we went on the chair and got buzzed, that's gone. So please don't judge us for that previous sin, as you wouldn't judge the other sins that we might have done in our previous life because we weren't Muslim. You know what I mean? I think one big thing, guys, is have a little think. You need to, and I'm talking to the born Muslims that might maybe even come on here thinking, no, it's haram, you shouldn't have them, get rid of them. Let's step back and have some empathy. Imagine a friend invited you to Japan. You've never been to Japan before. Sorry if there's Japanese people on the stream, because this would be normal to you. So, and you're invited to dinner. Now, Japanese culture, there's loads of social rules, things that are rude, things that you shouldn't do, things that you should do when the etiquettes of eating. Okay. Now, imagine your friend just went, you can't use your hands, you got to use chopsticks, haram. Do you know what I mean? It makes you feel uncomfortable, makes you not want to sit at that table. Now imagine a revert that comes to the table of Islam. It thinks it's beautiful and is accepted that there's one God and that Prophet, peace upon him, is the last messenger. And all the people around him is just telling him or her, you shouldn't be doing that, you shouldn't be doing this. They would want to leave the table. A lot of people in Islam, they accept Islam, alhamdulillah, but a lot of people leave Islam as well. And it's these sort of attitudes that contribute to people leaving Islam after accepting it. The lack of empathy from some Muslims, and like in the comments, mostly people are saying, yeah, this is a cultural thing, and yeah, you're right, it is a cultural thing. And this stream's appealing to open. Maybe you could tell your friends, your family, because to you in your circle of friends and people, you might not think it's a big deal, but to people like us that have tattoos, it's big. It's a big thing, and it's a common recurrence we get from new Muslims. That when people embrace Islam, they're really worried about their tattoos. They had someone comment on their tattoos. It's put them off hanging out with Muslims. Yeah. So
I think the attitude towards, yeah, you're right, Ben. I think the attitude towards tattoos is also fairly universal. I mean, I think tattoos have become art, whereas they used to be kind of seen as some rebellious hippie sort of punk thing. Now they're a bit more mainstream. But I think it exists in all cultures, you know, especially the old school parents, you know, if their daughter brings home a guy tattooed, there's this kind of view on tattoos. And I guess I'd even urge Muslims to perhaps not even judge non-Muslims with tattoos. And I think the reason why, if I think I mentioned to you guys earlier, if I can just bring up this guy on the screen. So this man here, if you met this guy walking down the road, maybe as a Muslim, now you may consider that guy, and some of you probably know him. You may consider, you know, I don't know. What do you guys think in the chat? What would you first? What were your first thoughts thinking of this guy? I know, Martin and Ben, you probably have different. But it'd be interesting to know people's thoughts seeing this guy, because
they probably run the other direction.
You know, this guy's a bit weird. This guy's never, you know, he's far away from Islam. Maybe you could even look at him and say he's anti-Islam, couldn't you? With his kind of.
We got someone saying satanic on here.
Satanic.
Subhanallah. Satanic cult. Subhanallah.
Yeah. So if I just go on quickly, and so this man actually became Muslim. So you can see him thereafter. His name, I think, is Abdul Malik. So mashallah, look at him now. So it just goes to show that.
I think looking at his face before and looking at his face after, that's a massive difference as well.
Yeah, you can really see.
If you pop it back up a sec, George.
Go on.
You can see him with the tattoos and how angry he looks and how aggressive. And then on the right, look at the smile and the happiness.
MashaAllah. And of course, you've got the trademark ginger beard.
That's funny.
The trademark ginger beard. But what I'd like to go into as well is something, obviously it was mentioned earlier. So okay, let's say a Muslim accepts that your sins are wiped clean after you've got your tattoo. Now there are some opinions out there that will say to you that you need to remove the tattoos where possible, or you need to cover them where possible. What do you think of that, Ben?
I think we'll definitely get onto removing. So I'll tell you the realities of removing a tattoo. But covering, I mean, it matters the situation. So let's say me, I go on holiday. I've got tattoos on my arms, my chest, and so on. I go on holiday with my friend Ahmed, who's a born Muslim and no tattoos at all. We go to Dubai. Okay, it's hot. It's really hot, and I've only got my English clothes. I'm boiling, man. I've got to go clothes shopping. Is it really fair that I should wear the long sleeve stuff and cover everything just because someone might think that my tattoos are haram and that I'm practicing haram things, and my friend Ahmed can wear a short sleeve t-shirt and be breezy and stuff like that? Is that a fair thing? Because remember, the sin is getting that tattoo done, and I did it before I was Muslim. I accepted Islam and it wiped the sins away. So I mean, I'm fresh. You know what I mean? It's not my fault. But at the same time, it's like if you go somewhere and you don't want to cause disorder or a negative vibe because of your tattoos, or your tattoos might intimidate people, then yeah, it's using hikmah again. We've talked about hikmah a lot in the streams. So it's about that, I'd say. Yeah. What about you, Martin? What do you think?
Yeah, to be honest, since getting educated, so I'm 4 years now. I've been a Muslim. And I've learned a heck of a lot over those 4 years. And I think now I look back and think, yeah, if only I didn't have it, it would it'd be easier, and I wouldn't be so paranoid about it. And it's like, I think you mentioned it earlier, Jordan, this body's just a loan to us. It's just a vessel. We got to give it back at the end of times and explain why we damaged it and what we did to it. And yeah, obviously, this was pre-Islam, so hopefully my bad deeds get turned to good deeds, and I don't have to explain for it. But I know other brothers who've had tattoos, like tiny little ones on their fingers, and they want to, after learning more about the deen and everything, they want to get them removed. And yeah, if I could, I probably would, to be honest, because I hate the fact that, I'm wearing short sleeves now, but you can't really see down there, so it's hidden most of the time. But if I go to, like I said, when I was in Umrah, I wore long sleeves because I didn't want the attention. I was roasting all the time, but apart from when we were out in the desert or whatever, then I'd wear short sleeves, and because there was nobody around. It's the same as if I go to a wedding now. I would never wear a short sleeve shirt because I don't want people staring at me. So it depends on the situation, like you said, Ben, as well. If I go to the beach, I will wear a short sleeve. I've been to Speaker's Corner and I've worn short sleeves before, but you still get people staring at you and they're like, not too sure on this.
It's a weird situation for us as well, because before we were Muslim, absolutely fine, normal. Like, you wouldn't even think twice about, oh, should I cover that tattoo? It's just, you might not even be showing off. You just, you know what I mean? You got this tattoo 10 years ago or whatever. It's just, you don't even think about it. I forget I have them, man. But when you become Muslim and you're in Muslim social circles, that thing that was completely normal, no one thought different of it, is now really like, whoa. And it makes you conscious of yourself a lot. It can do anyway.
Floating Man's got a thing here where he said, I think you should defo be covering where possible. Now, I think the key thing about this sentence is where you say, I think. If there's, unless you can provide some kind of maybe Quran or Sunnah where that's said, that's kind of an opinion. So I think,
then that's dangerous as well.
Some reverts may take that view. They may say, look, I'm in a school, I don't want to promote it to young kids, or made it. But I don't think there's anything that we can say, if you've got a tattoo on your arm, you have to cover it, or you should be going out of your way to cover it. I think hikmah is key, really, in these situations. In my opinion,
it depends on the tattoo as well. I think if I had a face of somebody on my arm, or I had a devil symbol or something, then fair enough. I would pretty much plaster paint on it every day just to make sure that it's hidden or something.
I think that's an interesting point we haven't raised yet. Is what if you had, say, a cross on your arm? Yeah. People have, or things like that. Then I think we're talking about general tattoos. I guess that would be a different scenario, wouldn't it? If you've got a devil or something on your arm, that would be.
I think we'll come to that as well, especially when we talk about removing tattoos. Yeah, because it's a different situation there, isn't it? But so I'd say from my research, the consensus is that you're not required to remove the tattoo, and all advice of most dawah organizations that they give to new Muslims as well is that you do not have to remove the tattoo, except in those situations of where you might be promoting something that's really anti-Islamic, and it's not obligatory for you. So it's like, what's the word? What's the word, guys?
Not fard, the one below it. Begin with an M. I've forgotten it.
But yeah, it's advised to do so. So, and there's also, if you've got pictures of things on your body that might invalidate salah, if it was a picture on the wall, then you should cover it when you pray, and things like that. But the majority of tattoos don't go in those categories, really. Yeah. In my experience of every day seeing people getting tattooed and what they got and stuff.
There's one category we haven't covered yet, which I would like to briefly touch upon, is because I think generally we've probably talked about the general most of the population of tattoos in this country get, the arm tattoo or the back tattoo or some kind of symbol that's maybe personal to them or something they like the look of. Sisters or women, before they convert to Islam, there's a lot of beautification tattoos now. So many women have the eyebrow tattoos. I've seen. There are tattoos you can make the lips bigger.
Hello, you gaze, Jordan.
So yeah, I've never had that one, but beard's covering it now.
Yeah, there's makeup tattoo, isn't there? Yeah, permanent makeup.
I guess this idea of beautification as well. I mean, this is something as well where I guess a sister converting to Islam may also be put off the same way a brother can. I don't know many sisters in that situation, but it's something to be wary of. Do you guys agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree with that. It's the same situation, really. I think that it doesn't matter what the purpose of the tattoo is. The hadiths mention the Prophet, he's forbidding getting tattoos. So that is a needle that inserts ink into the skin to put a permanent pigment on your skin. So it doesn't matter if it's going to be a picture of a daisy or fake eyebrows. It's the same. It's forbidden. So one question is there any evidence for that you don't have to? Why is there a hadith that says you don't have to remove it? So remember the hadith. All the hadiths mention that the sin is getting a tattoo or tattooing someone, not having a tattoo. So if Allah wipes the sin of you getting that tattoo, even if you become a Muslim, even if you are a Muslim, you stop practicing or whatever and get a tattoo because you don't think about it, and then you do tawbah and repent. After we do tawbah, we're meant to assume that Allah's forgiven that sin, and you got to still live your life. The sin isn't wearing the tattoo; it's getting the tattoo. So removing it isn't something for the deen, really, is it? And we'll get to removing it and the realities of that, and maybe you'll go, I see, that's why. So for example, guys, I don't know if you've checked my channel. I've got a small 6-minute video on my opinions on the tattoos and the realities on it, but all the information will be on here anyway. I'm myself getting a tattoo removed as well. I'm getting this one removed here that I got when I was really young and stupid. The reason I'm getting it done isn't because I think it's haram to have it or anything like that. It's literally because I don't want people's first impressions of me being there's a tattoo on his face, or for example, for work and everything, I don't want that to have a negative opinion on my life in this dunya, basically. And that's why I'm getting it removed. But should we talk a little bit about the procedure of getting it removed?
Yeah,
how that works?
Before we do that, can we bring on our special guest? We got somebody waiting in the
yeah.
I'll give you a clue. He's the most eloquent speaker at Speaker's Corner. He's got the loveliest smile.
My favourite.
And he's got the best beard. Here he is.
Jordan, you're not supposed to lie.
I was confused when I knew he was Abbas.
You're not supposed to lie. Yeah. How are you guys doing? Alhamdulillah.
Not bad. You've been listening in?
Yeah, I was hearing your discussion, mashallah. To be fair, I just got in the last 5 or 10 minutes, but very interesting, actually. Very interesting. So, yeah, I wanted to ask you guys, actually. I don't know if all of you have got tattoos or not, but when people have perhaps seen them, Muslims have seen them, and I'm sure that they perhaps didn't respond as Muslims should always respond, which is with empathy and not to be judgmental. But have you guys had a harsh? Have some people been sort of harsh and judgmental in terms of your tattoos after you became Muslim?
I think we'll pass it on to Martin.
Martin, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I was actually told once in a mosque in Birmingham that I can't pray with my arms showing.
Right. Yeah.
And it invalidates my wudu. I'm always in a downward spiral. I can't make wudu, and this was their logic, because I can't make wudu and clean myself because I've got the tattoo on me, so therefore I can't pray, and I shouldn't be praying with it exposed everywhere.
I mean, and to be honest, obviously, because were you quite new to Islam at the time?
I was, yeah. So
how did that make you feel? Because I'd like the viewers and the listeners and viewers to realize that what goes through somebody's mind who's just come into Islam. And, obviously in Jahiliyyah, in ignorance, we do all sorts of things. Even Muslims, when they're ignorant about their religion, they do really crazy things, right? And but how did it make you feel when this was sort of said to you?
I was shocked, to be honest. Like I was with one of my friends from around here. We went up for the day, and he educated the uncle that was telling me this. But at the time, I was horrified. I was thinking, why do I even bother coming to a mosque? Like, maybe I should just pray at home, which obviously we get more reward for going to the mosque, and we should try to do our prayers in the mosque. Yeah. But yeah, I was demoralized. I can't really put a better word than that on it. But it was just lack of education. Like I said, I was with one of my friends. He educated them. They still, I don't think they fully understood anyway. But yeah, it was not a nice feeling.
Not pleasant, really. And what about you, Ben? Did you experience anything similar, or?
Alhamdulillah, no, I haven't. I've had experience because of the way I used to dress before I became Muslim. I used to wear tight clothing and like things like that, and a few comments like that. But that's something you can change and should.
What about you, Jordan? Have you got? I don't even know if you've got tattoos.
My tattoos, no. I always, to be honest, I got into a stage where I was thinking about getting more and more tattoos. I think just because of my job and the nature of how other people view it, like Ben rightly said, and Martin, is I always avoided my arms, face, anywhere they can see. So mine is on my shoulder and it runs down my back. I remember going around. The only time I've exposed it in public would be going around the Kaaba, and I didn't notice. Obviously, it's behind me. I might have people behind me going. I didn't know, but I remember being quite conscious about it, and I think that's from the stories I've heard. And obviously, I was privy to being in the conversations when Isa and Martin would be walking around in Medina or Mecca, and shopkeepers were coming out of their shop saying "brother" and pointing at their arms. So yeah, I think I remember when we got our hair trimmed, some brother looking at it and he went like that, just touched it and went like that, and I. That's where
is it real?
Yeah, but I didn't know in Saudi. See, I'm guessing they're not used to it. So I don't know whether to hold them fully accountable. I think their reaction, they're welcome to ask. If they're coming up to you in a, mashallah, stuff like Isa was asked if he was Muslim. So stuff like that. Stuff like that.
This is the thing that as somebody born into Islam, I find sort of deeply frustrating, really deeply frustrating and upsetting, to be honest, because alhamdulillah, Allah's given you the strength in Iman, that even though Martin, your experience was, I think, quite traumatic. It was probably a really horrible thing to go through, but alhamdulillah has blessed you with enough Iman and hopefully enough support around you that alhamdulillah, you've mashallah flourished in your deen. May Allah make you flourish even more. And you've come through it. But somebody who's isolated, doesn't have a lot of perhaps Muslim friends, or is very new to the deen, and they see this harshness, it really can have a very deep founded and very long-term effect, and I think that's where for example, for me, I find that you may disagree or agree, I don't know, but I find that a lot of new Muslims that come into the religion actually, when some of them leave, it's not because they don't think Islam is true, but it's just because they don't seem to fit into what they think Islam actually is being created by predominantly in this country an Indo-Pakistani traditional type of Islam,
it's not the belonging.
Yeah, so it's like, almost you have to give up, who you are, what you are, and where you're from, and everything else, if you want to sort of somehow fit into this religion. But this religion, Islam, is not. Allah's created us different tribes and different, colors and everything else. So we may get to know one another, not that we may somehow amalgamate into one unified, people. And I think there's a lot of ignorance also because, clearly you guys are white, and the chances are that you've probably come into the religion, right? And so there has to be this understanding in Islam. It's a very basic concept. I mean, if you've committed any sin, forget tattoos. Tattoos, okay, we agree. Prophet ﷺ said they're forbidden, you can't do them. And in fact, I think at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, you guys may have already mentioned this, but actually it was the prostitutes who got tattoos done. This was their culture, this was their time, obviously nothing on the present. I'm not trying to imply anything here. Yeah. What I'm saying is that, so clearly, there was traditionally back there was this issue, and the Prophet ﷺ obviously made it forbidden. It's haram, and it's obviously remained haram. However, we're told that if people even committed murder, they'd stolen, they'd did the most heinous crimes. The second that they accepted Islam, now just imagine. I mean, for example. The greatest warrior, the greatest well-known warrior in Islam, that we often learn about, Khalid bin Walid, radiallahu anhu, right? Before he accepts Islam, he's fighting on the side of the Quraysh, the pagans. And single-handedly, because he was a mastermind at strategy, and he led their armies, and it actually was directly probably responsible for many Muslims dying. Many of the Sahaba, the companions, being killed, right? And yet, when he accepts Islam, what's he told? Everything is forgiven. Your slate's been wiped clean, right? So if, God forbid, if a murderer, somebody who's killed lots of people, stolen, raped, done all sorts of horrible things, and Allah says, once you accept Islam and you repent, you've accepted Islam, your slate is wiped clean, basically. So then what gives us the right then to start, pointing fingers at somebody who's got a bit of ink under their arm? No doubt it's haram and it was forbidden if you were a Muslim to have got that done, but in jahil and ignorance. And so the reason why I asked actually Martin how he felt is because I want Muslim brothers and sisters not just to look at the concept of a tattoo and saying something like that to a new Muslim or even an existing, somebody who's perhaps existed within the faith, but it can have a really detrimental effect, a very deep, damaging effect on somebody if you are harsh to people. And this religion was supposed to be refining our characters, and that's why I find it really frustrating. That even if I've encountered people with tattoos, and some of them are non-Muslims. So I'm not going to say, first of all, I'm not going to comment on whatever they said. But if there's a conversation, I might just say something like, oh gosh, that must have been really painful or whatever, And if they say, oh no, you get into a conversation, and then maybe you say, well, why wouldn't you get one done? Or why? And you say, well, actually, we're not allowed to. And then it's a way of dawah, isn't it? You could start a conversation, maybe.
I think you're right, Abbas, in your point about the harshness. And you mentioned in a stream we did the other day, I can't remember if it was the last one or the one before, about the lady, the sister who had her bag grabbed off her or something. She went to the masjid.
So she had a tasbih. This is a story that actually Hamza Yusuf mentioned, and I think if I'm not mistaken, Timothy Winters also mentioned this story of a sister who had accepted Islam, and she had a tasbih in her hand, beads to read a dhikr on remembrance of Allah. And obviously there are some schools of thought that say, well, one shouldn't use these, we should just use your fingers because the sunnah is to pray on your fingers, regardless, that's a separate topic for a separate day. But somebody grabbed it and frowned and told her off and snatched it and said it's a bid'ah, this is haram, this is wrong, And she was so hurt because it was such a violent action for her. She actually ended up leaving Islam over it.
Do you know what? The version of that story I had, that she wasn't a Muslim yet. She was from Christian background. She married a secular Egyptian, and someone gifted it to her, and that was her kind of like first feel of what Islam is. And she was just sitting waiting for a friend and just flicking with them just normally, and that happens. And then she didn't want to go. She thought Islam is this religion where people, you know, and subhanallah, what if I bring a friend to the masjid that's a non-Muslim? To go, this is the religion I've known you for years. We grew up together. I'm now a Muslim. I'm going to show you at the masjid, and people just go up to us and go, yeah, that's haram. This is not the way the Prophet, peace upon him, give dawah.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I get really emotional about this, but I think what's weird is I haven't experienced it myself. But I've seen so many reverts that have experienced it.
Yeah, you're right, Ben. It is very emotional. It's emotional for me, even, you know, being born in the faith, because obviously I recognize the fact that the Prophet's own behavior towards people and the way that he corrected. I mean, just imagine a Bedouin starts to urinate inside the mosque. And the Sahaba obviously are angered, and they want to literally go and grab this person and probably give him a good hiding. It's like, what the hell are you doing? How disrespectful. Inside the mosque, you're going to urinate like this? The Prophet actually stopped them. Let him finish. He let him finish. And then he said, go and advise him kindly that this is not done here, because in the masjid, this is an area of, you know, of worship. And this is najis, you know, this is unclean, and so we do not do these sort of things. Explain his religion to him nicely. Explain it to him nicely. Can you imagine if somebody I remember a story a brother said to me, a new Muslim brother. He said, I mean, he's not new anymore, mashallah. He's been a Muslim for like 15, 20 years now, I think, mashallah. Great brother, mashallah, does a lot of work for the deen, for the dawah, you know, puts everyone that I know certainly to shame, certainly including myself. But he was early in his deen, and he took a non-Muslim to show him the mosque, basically. And, you know, the area where you were allowed to wear your shoes, and generally where the area is carpeted, you're not supposed to sort of creep onto that with your shoes. You know, I mean, he didn't know. And so he might have just wandered slightly in, and somebody came up to him and really told him off. And he said, trying to explain that, look, I'm new, I didn't know, you know. But it was that harshness that he mentioned this story to me that had happened 15 years ago. You know, it upset him so much that, you know, this brother behaved in that way and made him feel so guilty, so bad. That subhanallah, I don't think the brother's going to forget that till the day he dies. Quite frankly, you know. But
Abbas, where do you feel this attitude comes from? Why do you think other Muslims have this urge to tell someone the thing they're doing is wrong?
I think, you know, it's a very, very, very good question, actually, Ben. It's an exceptional question, actually. I think if not much of it, most, if not all of it, actually probably comes from a cultural tendency. So within the Asian culture especially, and somewhat I would say Middle East and African culture as well, you know, an elderly person, a person who's older than you basically is quite revered and respected. And so even if they utter something wrong or whatever, you wouldn't find youngsters swearing at them or God forbid, being violent towards them. You know, they would probably just walk away. There's a lot of reverence and respect given to people who are older. That's the first thing. Generally, these people that correct people in that way tend to be older. So I don't know what the person was that corrected you. Probably older, much older, right? And so so a lot of these people are still living in that very traditional Pakistani Indian type of culture where the elderly person can tell you off, can say whatever they want, and you've just got to take it. You've got to be quiet, basically, you know? So I think that fundamentally, that's the first thing that I think comes into it. It's a cultural thing where perhaps the reverence and the respect that is often given to older people, some old people, of course, not all, this is a minority of people, because I think most people are sensible enough, even the elderly are sensible enough not to approach somebody in that way. It's a minority, but they abuse that reverence, they abuse that respect, they abuse the fact that they have this power almost, you know, and that they can say whatever they like. And so that's the first thing. But I think the second thing, and perhaps this is the most important thing really here, more than the cultural aspects of things, is really a lack of understanding the religion of Islam. it's really fundamentally not understanding that the etiquette, the manners, the decorum, the sweetness of your tongue is so important in Islam, that so much so, in fact, that we're told that one statement that you might make to somebody could potentially hurt them so much, upset them so much, that it could be the cause of your demise as a Muslim. So you could end up losing everything you've got on the basis that you said something so harsh that was, because a lot of times people simply do not understand that words actually really do matter.
And shaitan plays on it as well.
And shaitan plays on it, because afterwards shaitan says, look, see, this is what Islam is all about. This is what it's really about. And shaitan will use whatever, because shaitan is the deceiver. He's the liar, he's the deceiver, and he is a trickster. He will trick you. He will find any angle to work you, to try to get you out of belief, to try to get you out of deen. But your question is a very good one, because I think it comes from definitely from cultural things. Because, you know, if an English person becomes Muslim and he's even in his elderly age, I find that their temperament often is quite different, because within English culture, it's very rude just to go and approach somebody and say something like that. Do you see my point? So what I find is that, mashallah, Islam, when an English person accepts Islam, they already have many of the principles of the etiquette and manners that Islam actually preached in the first place. So without even knowing it, they were actually practicing perhaps more etiquette and manners, or, you know, rules of Islam than somebody who was Muslim for 70 years. So for them, it actually becomes, and I really like this saying, and I heard it from a non-Muslim, and I like the way that he said it actually. And he said that, you know, religion is an accelerant, and if you pour it over a bad person, it often can accelerate those bad qualities in that individual. And if you're already, mashallah, a good person, you know, you have good etiquette, good manners, good decorum, you know, you mashallah are in tune with people, with the environment and everything else, and then you pour Islam over that person, that person flourishes in Islam. It's like, you know, turbocharged, you know, it's like and I think that's what happens. And I think what happens is that you can use religion and deliberately interpret it wrongly if you wish, and go against the teachings and find obscure teachings, or, you know, find someone who perhaps you might have some reverence and respect for, who's very harsh to people and is very firm with people, and you sort of assume that that's the right way to be. So it's cultural, and I would say a lack of religious knowledge and belief, you know, and iman, I would say, because I think it is iman as well, because ultimately, for a lot of people, they do know that actually it's inappropriate to say these things, but because they simply are not in control of or they don't want to control their vices, they don't want to control their tongue. It's easy not to control it, you see. Sometimes it's very hard to control your tongue, bite your tongue, or you know, if it's against your temperament, really alter your temperament and make it a kind temperament when your default position has to be quite harsh, you see.
It's almost an overzealousness, like we just talked about, isn't it, Abbas? And I think, to be honest, I don't know if you guys agree, but a lot of Muslims that are doing this, their intentions are probably good. I'm not, you know, it's just the way they're going about it, which can really, and I think that's what Muslims need to, perhaps born Muslims need to take into consideration, that even if, because it could be an example where they're actually in the right, but you know, if you approach a revert in a certain way, you know, if a revert's got short shorts on, they turn up to the masjid. Rather than, you know, if you explain why not, as opposed to just, you know, grabbing that revert and saying, "Get out! You can't do this. This is bad, very bad." Then
sorry, go on, Abbas.
Go on, Ben.
No, I was going to say that. You know what I would do if I saw a revert and they came to the masjid and their shorts were a little bit short, whatever? I'd actually try to pray next to the brother. I would try to conceal him from the rest of the people so he wouldn't be embarrassed by anybody else. That's the first thing I would try to do. I would try to, inshallah, meet the brother, say salam. I would walk outside the masjid with the brother, And I would just say, brother, assalamu alaikum, how are you? Are you new to the deen? I've not seen you here before, blah, blah. Make some sort of conversation with the brother. And then just explain that, mashallah, it's really lovely that you come to the masjid and everything else, but I don't know if you're aware, maybe you were in a hurry or whatever, but this is normally like the etiquette for prayer. But don't worry about it. We all make mistakes, and even I sometimes wear the odd thing that's not quite right, and somebody might come up to me. So I hope you don't take it badly, but this is sort of like the basic way of dressing when you come to the masjid. Say it softly, say it with kindness, say it nicely.
I think that's with everything, every advice you give to a fellow Muslim. I'll give you a good example of someone that gave that corrected me, but in such a lovely manner. So at the masjid, it was early days of me being a Muslim, and I was praying slightly wrong, and that Muslim, that guy came next to me, prayed and waited until I was finishing, made sure that I was completely finished, and then he just said, "Excuse me, brother, I just want to give you some words of wisdom that might have such barakah in your life." And he put it in such a way of he's giving me this wicked tip that would increase my Islam. And then he corrected me. He said, I read in this hadith that the Prophet peace upon him used to pray like this and so on. And he explained it all. And it was of the assumption of it wasn't you're wrong, you should do it like this. It was this is the way the Prophet did it, man. And if you did it that way, you get so much barakah in your life. And it was like benefiting me. And he said it now. Alhamdulillah, that is a good way of giving advice to someone instead of just, because an attitude of someone that wants to tell someone they're wrong, where's that? Why are you trying to do that? I don't get that attitude at all. I think you got to think, what's their intention there? Why are you trying to tell someone how to do their Islam? There might be stuff that you need to improve yourself first.
No, I agree with you. What do you think, Martin, on that? I mean,
I've had people help me with certain things. Oh, have I frozen?
No, we can hear you.
Am I back?
We can hear you.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you're back now.
Every single person froze. I thought I'd lost it. Good job I didn't swear.
You're on mute. You're on mute now, Martin.
There we go.
You're back.
I tell you. So I've had people correct me in the mosque with stuff that I've been doing wrong, whether it's like, I don't know, just the way I'm kneeling or the way I'm doing something, and the way they've corrected me, amazing. So I can't, and I'm reading some of the comments here and blaming certain cultures, but it's not certain cultures, it's not most cultures. How can I say this? We shouldn't blame just one culture, basically, but if somebody does it the right way, like you were saying, Abbas, earlier, the way you sort of waited for him to finish, then kindly spoke to him, that would be so much better than if somebody comes up to you and goes, "Do you realize your whole salah has just been invalidated because you didn't do this?" And you're thinking,
even that's wrong. Even that's wrong, because the person didn't know. So you're not accountable for what knowledge you don't know, and Allah's the most merciful.
That's right. You're doing, as long as you're doing the best. You'll find people who've been Muslims all their lives, and they won't know the basic fard, the basic compulsory acts of ghusl, for example, of how to shower. And there are only 3 fard that one has to remember, and depending on the school of fiqh, some say that you have to have the intention, but within the Hanafi madhab, as long as you gargle and you put water right the way to the back of your nose and you clean your nose properly, and water reaches every part of your body, including your belly button, under your arms, everywhere basically, your ghusl is complete, right? It's a simple, very basic 3 farad, or if some people with different fiqh may say that the intention is also necessary, but very, very basic. But I can assure you that you can ask some Muslims who've been Muslim for 50 years, 60 years, all their life, and they won't be able to tell you the simple basic farad of doing a ghusl, doing a shower. And you'll find that sometimes it's the people with the least amount of knowledge tend to be the harshest in terms of how they will correct. In fact, I would probably suggest, not sometimes, I would say probably virtually all the time, the least amount of knowledge tends to have the harshest type of, and it's not about blaming culture, because look, I am from an Indian Pakistani culture, right? My parents are both born in India. My family, much of my family moved to Pakistan after partition 1948. So half of, probably 70% of my family actually are Pakistani, or in Pakistan, my cousins, their children, etc., etc. And I visited Pakistan probably more than I visited India. So I have ties with both of these countries. But despite being of Indian Pakistani origin, let's say, but being born here, there are certain principles that unfortunately you won't see in most countries around the world, not just India, Pakistan, but in most countries around the world. One of the courteous acts that you see that is followed in England in such a way, in fact, that it's often joked about, and it's even dissimilar to many countries in Europe, which is the art of queuing. You know, you'll have some big burly bloke, you know, with tattoos, God forbid, right? Who will show up, but he'll queue up behind everybody because he's come last, right?
And that's the principle of wanting for your brother that you want for yourself.
Right. And so now you tell me that that is an Islamic principle, actually. Okay. I'm not saying that the person here who followed it is following an Islamic principle. I'm just saying that that is actually almost the essence of Islam, of what Islam actually teaches. These are the sort of things that Islam teaches about justice, fairness, like you said, Ben, wishing for your brother what you would wish for yourself, right? And yet one has to be honest and say, look, this country, and I've actually heard scholars say it, that England and the English often have more Islam in their governance and, you know, the way that they are as a people than many of us Muslims in many Muslim countries. Now, what are we going to say? Are we going to say, well, no, we shouldn't criticize our own, we shouldn't... I'm not criticizing Islam. Islam, alhamdulillah, is pure, and Islam is the best teachings that we can have. I'm just criticizing us, and I include myself in that we should be following this religion because it is a beautiful religion. I even heard Shah Nawaz in the khutbah saying, you know, that we are a people with the best of teachings, and yet sometimes we are a people of the worst of habits. You know, and we have to accept that there is some truth in this. And unless, you know, just like an alcoholic has to stand up and say, you know, hi, my name is, you know, Ron, and I'm an alcoholic, you know, we Muslims need to stand up and say, you know, we're Muslims, and some of the things that we are doing are wrong, and we need to address those things. We need to talk to our brothers and our sisters. We need to have these live streams. We need to share Martin's experience, Ben, Jordan, your experience, and explain to brothers and sisters that, you know, we need to make a concerted effort to realize that we don't want to become what the Prophet warned against, which was that I fear that my ummah will become a fitna for the people. In other words, the Muslims will become a trial for the people. We must not be the cause of people leaving Islam.
Yeah.
It's a bit,
That's really well said. Really well said. MashaAllah.
Well, one of the things that's been brought up, MashaAllah, Abbas, really good point. One of the things that's been brought up in the chat quite a lot, and I think it's probably something, I know we said we were going to talk about it, but many Muslims that I've spoken to believe that they actually accept, they understand that after the Shahada, your sins are wiped clean, but they can't quite understand why you can't just remove the tattoo or just, you know, we talked about covering.
Do you want me to give...
Yeah, maybe
give some technical details.
I think most people don't understand. To be honest, I don't understand how to move a tattoo, even though I have. And I don't know whether it's possible to move it, and will it be scarred? Will it, you know? And so, I think it'd be good. Because I think a lot of Muslims feel that okay, fair enough. But now that you're still choosing to keep it, that's not permissible.
Actually, Ben, before you give the explanation, Ben, on just the Islamic point, I'd just like to say, before you go into the mechanics of how it's done and the risks, because I think you've actually studied this in some detail, so I think it'd be quite an insight. But you know, Jordan, it's quite remarkable, you see, and I'm a little bit. I don't want to sound annoyed, but I'm a little bit annoyed. You know, I'm sorry, but what gives us the right to tell people to remove something when Islam doesn't actually tell them to remove it?
That's the big misconception. Yeah.
What gives me the right to say, oh, well, why don't you just get rid of it? When Allah doesn't expect that of you, when the Prophet ﷺ does not expect that of you, when the religion is full of mercy and forgiveness and of kindness, okay? So what gives me the right then to say, well, actually, maybe I know more than Allah and I know more than the Prophet ﷺ, so why don't you get rid of it? We need to rewire our brains here.
Yeah.
When something Allah or the Prophet ﷺ have excused, how dare we think anything other than that we should excuse it as well, that we should have no right to comment on it whatsoever.
MashaAllah, that's really well put. And it's really nice to hear from someone who is a born Muslim.
If Allah has forgiven somebody, if the Prophet ﷺ has excused them, it's irrelevant. Your slate is wiped clean. Then as a Muslim, as a mu'min, as a believer, as a slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I hear and I obey. Okay? So I should immediately think to myself that if I have these feelings, then there's a problem with me. I need to address that. Why am I feeling these things when Allah and the Prophet ﷺ have made the matter very clear? Honestly, it's about having introspection if you have these feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and saying, Ya Allah, you've said something, the Prophet has said something, my heart is inclined to go against it. I acknowledge my fault, please rectify me. Don't turn to the brother and say, well, why don't you get rid of it?
I think it's the misconception that the misconception that the actual reality is getting the tattoo and doing the tattoo is the haram action, not having a tattoo. That's not what's mentioned, that's cursed and that's haram. It isn't having the tattoo, it's the action of receiving the tattoo or giving the tattoo. And that's the misconception, because obviously they might think by having it, then you are sinning as still. And that's what I cleared up at the beginning of the stream.
That's an important point. So Ben, what are the actual mechanics?
Before we go into it, can we? Sorry, Ben. I know.
It's all right. Everyone's like, "Well, how does it work?" And it's like,
to be honest, I think Abbas sort of knocked it out of the park a bit. I think it'd still be good to know the process, but Abbas is right. But we got another special guest coming on.
Okay.
So, with his green screen. Let's have a look. Let's have a look how it goes.
Wow,
the ginger destroyer is here.
You'd never know that was a green screen. You'd never know.
Oh, that's brilliant.
He's getting there.
I bet you went, I'll go on this stream. Right, let's set it up. Oh, whatever, let's just go.
Actually, Ben, I like your green screen today. SubhanAllah. I thought, wow, that's a very stately library.
I'm not sure we can hear Hamza, though. I can't hear.
Yeah, we can't hear.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, okay. Sorry. So, Assalamu alaikum, brothers, anyway. Very, very nice talk you've been having, mashallah.
Mashallah.
I know Martin was about to just say something, but I just, because you guys are talking about how Muslims get on the backs of new Muslims. Oh, this is haram and this and that. I just wanted to throw my 2 penny thing.
I was going to mention you actually earlier.
Because I was kind of the opposite.
Yeah.
Because the way I found it was that I'd accepted this beautiful way of life. And for me, I give up my children, I give up my business, I give up my family, I'd made hijrah to London, I'd done everything. So I expected this utopia. And I see Muslims behaving worse than I ever did. And I said, what's going on here? And they thought it was normal. And I'm like, brothers, it's time for Salah in the masjid, what's going on? Oh yeah, we're working and we pray when we go home. But you don't pray when you go home. There's no way. Do you go home and pray 17 rak'ahs or whatever it is, all the salah? You can't even find time to pray now.
Yeah.
So I was more brutal on them. But I could tell you one trick, brothers, that I found help with old men. Because old men are very, very, especially Muslim old men, a Sub-Saharan continent, I would say, very nationalistic. Right? So I had this Bengali old man who was staying on the same street as me. And every day he passed, I was new Muslim, salam alaikum. And he would ignore me. He would blank me. Like I didn't say salam at all. And I'm thinking, okay, tomorrow I'm going to be a bit firmer. And I'm like, so he's come past and I stood my hand out. Salam alaikum. I stood in front of him. Salam alaikum. And he just went round me. I don't salam again. And I'm thinking, subhanallah, what's going on? Anyway, so someone told me, say, look, these they're very nationalistic. So why don't you greet him in his mother tongue first? So I was like, okay. So the next day, guys come in. I stand in front of him. Bala suni sasa, salam alaikum. Big smile. Alaikum assalam. Subhanallah din. So I've learned to greet in everybody's language. Even if you're Chinese, you're ni hao. If you're Turkish, you're Nasılsın. If you're Gujarati, you're Kemcho. If you're Afghani and you're Farsi, then you're Chatur Asti. If you're Patkhun, I'll say Sangaye. If you're just Urdu speaker, Kese. Yeah, Kaifa halak, Labas. Just learn all the greetings in all the mother tongues. And it was one funny one time I spoke to this brother, and I said to him, brother, where are you from? Oh, I said, Assalamu alaikum, where are you from, bro? He went, Cyprus. So I went, oh, Cyprus, Turkish Cypriot. So I was like, Nasılsın. And he went, no, I'm Greek. And he was a Greek convert, right? Greek revert. So I was like, okay, Falaraki days, Tikanis. His mother tongue on me. So honestly, I know this sounds really cheesy, but trust me, if you're going to frequent the masjid and you're going to meet the old men, just learn to greet them in the mother tongue. Like I say, Sangayas, Chatur Astis, Kemchos, and you will not believe how their hearts get open just by that, just by hearing that. They do turn around and go, piggity pow, piggity pow, thinking you should see their language. Well, that's another story. Yeah. But
How did it go?
Well, I like to go piggity pow. Yeah. That's it. So the point is, I'm just saying to you, if you want to open the doors up, especially the old men, it's the old uns, obviously. And we do say old is gold, and we do say old is wisdom. Do you get me? So, subhanallah, someone says greet a roadman, wagwan. Yeah, all right.
It's got it.
Yeah?
It's done it.
So you know, wherever you are, if you're Portuguese, tudo bem. Yeah, if you're French, ça va. Whatever language is very, very nice to greet them in their own language.
I think it's good because what's that message show? It means that I know where you're from and I've made the effort to understand where you're from and even your language. And it just that small thing must be cool. But we as English people, we don't experience that. English is the most used language in the world. If you go on holiday, they normally know your language and so on like that. So we don't have that feeling of maybe Martin has it.
Well, we have this arrogance, don't we? As English, we have this arrogance that we think everyone should speak English.
Yeah,
right.
And we think if we shout and speak slowly, everyone understands us. You know, I go to France a lot for my business, and they refuse to speak English. Nobody. You know, and I still speak. I go to the Chinese in Paris who speak French and Chinese, and I'm still speaking English to them. Yeah, so like I say, make effort. And the other thing is, I know you said it's about shows you've made effort, but it's not that as well. It's the nationalistic side of things. Because when they hear their language, automatically it's just a barrier is removed because they feel comforted straight away because it was in their national thing. And if you really want a Bengali old man to smile, forget Balo Soni Sasa. Say Apanika Monisen. Oh, that's like saying, how do you do, sir? You know, it's like it says saying, all right, it's how do you do? It's the formal way, and they love because they don't even greet each other that way. You know what I mean? So anyway, that's my 2 pence.
Mashallah. It's almost a shame it has to be like that, isn't it? Because Salam Alaikum is obviously universal, but I think it's great, a great idea to try and relate to the person by using their language. Mashallah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, well, Salam Alaikum is the greeting of the Muslim, and then obviously how are you is the how you doing is obviously the next thing. So you might say to someone in English, Salam Alaikum, bro, how are you going? How are you? Do you get me? So we give the greeting of the Muslim, alhamdulillah, and then obviously we ask how are you?
Yeah.
But you know,
in our language, when we say "you're right, mate," that means "are you okay there?" Like, but that means hello, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So you just say "you're right," so you go "Salam alaikum," "you're right, mate." Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
It's a greeting.
Exactly. The only thing is, like I say, because of the issues I had with the Bengali old man, I had to do the greeting first.
Mm.
So, how are you? Salam alaikum.
So once you got talking, was there any mention of him ignoring you or anything, or did you just carry on as?
I don't ever go there, mate.
Okay, ignored you the next day.
No, I didn't care. I just wanted that. I'll be honest with you, bro.
Yeah, don't give us the ending.
I just wanted that salam. I just wanted that salam. I was determined that the old man going down that street every day, ignoring me, he's going to return my salams. Alhamdulillah. And
you know, to be honest, may Allah inshallah guide us that when a brother or sister says salam alaikum, or even if a non-Muslim says hello, you know, that we show that according to the Sunnah, the beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his example, the teachings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that we respond with kindness, that we can say wa alaikum assalam, we can say peace be upon you, we can say, you know, good afternoon, good morning when somebody says that to us, you know, with kindness, with a smile. Even a smile is charity, right? May Allah inshallah make us an ummah that we can truly, you know, as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, you know, where for some people the Islam will not go below their throats, you know. May Allah save us from that. May Allah let it truly enter our hearts so we can actually, you know, Hamza, it's an amazing story. And actually, I didn't realize Hamza was so, mashallah, multilingual. Yeah. You know, but you know, subhanAllah, we shouldn't even have to some extent, have to do that within the Muslim community, because, like you said, Jordan, assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you, should be a complete universal, you know, way of greeting somebody in the Muslim religion, you know. Anyway,
just the old men. It's just the old men. You just have to disarm them.
It is. I think I agree with you that it is very much a generational thing, and I think sometimes, you know what it is with dealing with Ben's original question as well as to why it happens. You know, we've got to realize that a lot of these old guys who've come over, not all of them, of course, but they've often come over completely uneducated, really uneducated, and in fact, not even educated within the Islamic religion. They might be routinely coming to the masjid, you know, but they have very little knowledge. They just do the basic farad, the compulsory acts of the religion. And they just don't know any better, really. That's what it is. They just don't know any better, you know?
Yeah. The reality is they're the pioneers. I mean, they're the reason we have masjids to pray at. So
many of them, yes. You
know, we probably wouldn't even be Muslims today if they didn't come and go through that
effort. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, subhanallah. So I don't ever put anything on them. You know, they come over, the NF were on their backs. They had to ghettoize themselves because they were being targeted by skinheads and all that business, and their children were brought up in that same. I get it. I don't have a go at anyone for it. Do you get me? Unless they're being a bit stupid with it. The reality is this. You know, it's like you mentioned the you know, I know this is talking about a non-Muslim in the masjid who urinated and such, but the point is they know no better. Yeah. Because because all they've had, these old people, is when they first came to this country, was white people shouting at them. And putting bricks through their window. So all of a sudden it seems, and especially reverts seem to have skinheads. I don't know. I don't know what it is. We grow our beards and shave our heads, but apart from Jordan, obviously. MI5 So obviously, you know, maybe even that plays into it. They see a white skinhead and think, oh my god, you know, flashbacks or whatever it may be. I don't know.
The Prophet, peace be upon him, never shaved his head, did he? Oh, he did every so often. And then he grew it down to about here, didn't he? And
he had hair of one length, where obviously he was shaved it on Hajj and Umrah, isn't it? And so, you know, but the point I'm saying to you is this: these old men have experienced trauma in their lives from white people, abusing them just for being here. You know, they go into a white council estate and their windows are through and Paki scum written on their doors and all that stuff. So you know, I can understand where the reservation may come. That's why, you know, but the youth have got no excuse. But the elders, I believe they do have an excuse.
Yeah. I never thought about that, to be honest.
You know, so before Ben obviously goes back into sort of the tattoos, removing them and stuff. we talked a lot earlier, Hamza, about in Saudi and stuff, the experience of tattoos, and I guess we all had sort of different opinions out there, shouldn't we? Whether we did you hear the bit where we spoke about perhaps whether it's our duty to explain to born Muslims about the tattoos, or is it their ignorance? Do they need to learn more about it? In Saudi we had that kind of a.
I would say it's a sphere of influence type of situation. You're not going to go around, look, I've got a tattoo. I know I've got a tattoo, but you know what I mean. But if someone comes up to you and says, bro, what's that? Then you can explain to them. But I don't think you need to. Right, everybody, stop! All right, I've got a tattoo. Right, I haven't always been Muslim.
Yeah.
Sphere of influence.
It's haram, brother. It's haram.
Yeah. The best thing was that brother said, isn't it? The Swede, Abdul Swede. The brother from Medina University.
Mashallah, beautiful
when we
brother.
spoke to him about this issue.
Yeah.
And he says, if you can show me anywhere that you can be held accountable for something you did prior to accepting Islam, then show me. Then it's for you to prove it.
Good line. Yeah.
You've got nothing to answer. Anyone with a tattoo prior to Islam has no question to answer. If the person come and accuse them saying, brother, this is haram, you say, prove it. Because you have to first prove that having something prior to Islam is haram once you become a Muslim. And you can't. So that's it. He said there's nothing to answer. There's no case to answer. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But I think Martin was going to talk about a very important subject, wasn't he? About removing these dreadful, horrible things, blighting your skin.
Ben was going to explain the mechanics.
Ben's actually had one removed, haven't you, Ben?
Ben, yeah. So yeah, brother, when you guys do that haram tattoo, how are you going to do it?
So what I was going to tell people is a lot of people have been asking all through the stream. So why can't you just get it removed? And I said I'll tell you what the procedure is. Okay, so I'm going to tell you about my procedure, and Martin's already had one removed, but I'm going to show you one because mine's really small, and then you can see the magnitude of big tattoos. So mine's there. Okay, and I've been having my tattoo. I've had that been removed for about a year and a half of sessions, and look, still there. Each session cost me about, and this is because I know people, because I used to work in the business, cost me about £30, but normally it would cost you 40. That's the minimum cost. Okay, so what the procedure is? It's a laser that shoots a beam of light, a laser beam of light that will shatter all the pigments that it touches. So it shatters your natural pigments and the ink that goes into your bloodstream. And the healing process, it will bring back your natural pigment, but not the ink. Okay, so you got to make sure that the machine is good. And there's no regulations in this country. So anyone could buy any old machine and just go, yeah, tattoo removal, and then you've got white blobs all over your face and your arms and so on like that. So you've got to make sure the tattoo removal machine is good. How do you know that when you don't know anything? So you've got to trust people. It's hard. There's dodgy ones, and normally the more expensive it is, the better it's going to be. 2, you got the healing time. So I have mine done every 3 months. If I did it more often, it would burn the skin away, which is haram in Islam. You can't harm yourself like that as well. It will burn the skin away and take away my pigments. So it's really long and really expensive. Now, if you magnitude that onto a tattoo all the way up your arm, that's hours of agony getting it done. The lasers are about the size of a full stop, maybe. Imagine that, and it goes at a speed like this, and it feels like a little electric shocks each time. So it's painful. It's really painful, actually, especially on the big areas. You get that done, and now for about a week, you'll feel that you've got to cover it from the sun, because the UV light will then get into the deep of the skin and so on. And it will be sore and a little bit scabby as well. So for about a week or so, and you've got to put cream on it and stuff. So it's actually massive hindrance to get a tattoo removed. Although you see people before and after, and that's all you see. The actual reality of it, if someone's got a big tattoo on their chest or something, it's going to cost them thousands of pounds, and it's going to take years to get rid of, and it's going to have pain and so on. And for example, I need to do wudu, and I've got a scab on my thing that I can't get wet. What do you do?
Right. Yeah, can you get rid of it, Ben, or will there always be some scar of it?
So that's due to the quality of the machine. So if you go to a cheap person that doesn't, my mum went to a cheap person. She got a tattoo on her arm from like back in the 70s, and now it just looks like a disgusting white scar all over it. It's just a blob and it looks disgusting.
Is there a risk for infection or potentially falling ill over it and stuff like that as well?
It's very low risk, and the reason being is it will blister slightly, and if you don't clean that blister, it could be infect, just like you would if you accidentally scratched or cut yourself or burnt yourself on the stove or something.
But you could get badly scarred if it goes wrong, right?
Yeah, it's not that if it goes wrong, as if the machine isn't correct. Yes, it will take the pigment away, it will scar you. But if it's all successful and you've gone to a good person, a good machine, they know, and you do it every 3 months or every 2 months and not every week, then inshallah it should go. But to be honest, even then there might be a small fade of that tattoo. So it matters what ink was used when you did the tattoo, what needles were used, how deep they did it, and so on like that. And the person removing mine said it's going to take years and it might not go fully. But what the reason I'm getting rid of it is because I don't want to people think the worst of me when they first meet me, and that's what people normally do in normal life. And and for my career and so on like that, I don't want that to affect it. So there we go, guys. It's not if you want to donate a couple of £1,000 for me, alhamdulillah, I'll set up a Patreon to get Ben's tattoo removed. but most
I was
people
going to
can't
say
afford
something about tattoos, though. Honestly,
yeah, go on.
Because I also think they're good dawah. Because I always get kind of inspired when I see people with tattoos who've embraced Islam, because it shows you they've come from a life of ignorance. It shows you they've come from a different upbringing, a different scenario, and now they've chosen the path of truth. And it's amazing, because you think, because when someone's got tattoos on them, they've got other completely different value systems. So when you see them praying next to you and pray and you see them at Mecca and all of these things, it's like, wow. Because I remember back in the day when this prophet's got tattoos always, like a big guy with tattoos all over his face. And it's like, wow, mashallah, he's a Muslim now. There was not like, astaghfirullah, look at his tattoos. It was like, wow, imagine the life. You see some of these gangsters from South America and all them places, and they've all got the gang tattoos. And now they're Muslims, alhamdulillah. So I think it's I'm not saying it's dawah in the sense of inviting to that, but to show that people have had lives maybe worse than yours, with different moral values and upbringings, and yet they're Muslims today now, mashallah. But that's just a sign of where they came from. So it's an inspiration that, wow, if they came from that gang culture, this or whatever it may be, I'm talking about the South American guys and whatever. But even just the Western lads, in the pub drinking, tattoo, LFC or whatever it may be, right, or sharks or whatever your inspiration is, yeah. But it's just like, wow. And look, they're Muslims today. They've changed their values. Should, and for me, that's inspirational. I don't see it as if I see someone with a tattoo. I know, obviously, we're coming from that background. I don't think, astaghfirullah. Now, if I see a Muslim with a tattoo, it's a different story.
Do you think some of it, Hamza, is? Do you think some of it is culture related? Because us as perhaps English folk, growing up in this country, seeing tattoos, maybe don't frown upon it as much, but I don't see many tattoos, and maybe Abbas, you might be able to correct me, in the Indian community, or it's kind of frowned upon in general, isn't it? In those, I don't know that makes a difference to also the people's sort of reaction to it.
Culturally, in India and Pakistan, obviously, Pakistan, because it's a predominantly Muslim country, so you would really not see it. But in India, again, it's not very common. And if somebody were to get it, they'd probably have it hidden under their, shoulder or whatever it might be, But you don't. I mean, India and Pakistan, whenever I've visited, I can't recall seeing anybody there, local person with tattoos. I know that there are some cultural things that do happen in India, and I think they do happen with tattoos as well, but I think it's very rare, very small number of people. I think, Martin, you say that you've had one removed as well.
Yeah, I used to have one on my forearm. It took me about 15 treatments.
Really?
I think it was about 40 quid a time. So what's that? That's £600.
£600.
How big it is?
It was similar sized.
Right.
Similar size to one of these.
Right.
So you can imagine, like that would cost me
cool. You're talking about 2 or 3 grand maybe to get all that done. Yeah,
probably more. Yeah,
and not only that, but the main thing here is, I think, as I said to you earlier, that when Allah hasn't made something compulsory upon you, when Allah has not made something on you, we're not supposed to make our religion hard and difficult to follow. And especially when Allah's given us a concession, like Hamza's also said, that that your sins are forgiven. prior to accepting Islam. And like you said, Ben, that getting it done or the person doing it is what's sinful. Having it on there afterwards is not the sin. It's the actual getting it done is a sin, right?
And we remember that everyone can do Tawbah as well. So
of course.
This is actually in consideration to born Muslims that might have stopped practicing or might have not been brought up practicing and then decided to practice. So it should be the same judgment there. It should be like, alhamdulillah. You should actually think, oh, alhamdulillah. I saw someone at the masjid like a couple of months ago at Jummah, and it was a Pakistani guy and had tattoos on his arms and stuff. I didn't think, oh, astaghfirullah. I thought, alhamdulillah, that guy, he's come back to the deen. He's at the masjid. Do you know what I mean?
That's very important. I think positive about people. And like you said, Hamza, when you see somebody with the tattoos all over their face and you see them in the masjid, instead of feeling in your heart some, repelling them or feeling, bad, make it a positive thing. Subhanallah, look, this person, whatever they did, Subhanallah, they've repented and they're worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's the main thing, right? Think good about it.
This is another thing I was going to add, because let's say a person, and this is for you Muslims now who do make this judgmental call. Imagine this person's prayed to Allah, they've accepted Islam, and they've said, Allah, please forgive me for having this tattoo because I did it in my time of ignorance. Now I'm Muslim, alhamdulillah. And Allah forgave them. Who are you to judge them? Who are you to now start having a go at them? Allah's forgive them for this. Allah says He's forgiven them for this. So how can you now go up to them and start saying this is haram when Allah is the one who makes halal haram and haram halal?
I agree. The other thing I wanted to mention is because we've spoken a lot about how maybe other people view tattoos. I think it's important how reverts view the tattoos themselves. So some reverts may be made into think that they should be ashamed. And Matt Chase said something to me during Umrah, which was interesting, is he said he views them as he views them as his war scars, kind of like war, scars from war from his previous time. And that made me really look at, wow, that's an interesting way of looking at it. Kind of, he's been through that, he's come out the other side, and now he's a Muslim. So
because he'll point at the each tattoo, and he'll know when he had that one and why he had that one and what that one's about and what that one meant or how he was feeling when he had that one. So it's basically a map of his life as well, in that sense. That this is like his life prior to Islam. Do you get me?
Yeah.
But there was one thing I was going to say. What was it? Gone.
We've got a question here as well. It says, what would the brother say to people who say that tattoos may influence others to do the same if they are not removed or covered?
Well, you could say that about anything.
But influence who? I mean, look, at the end of the day, as a Muslim, if you know your religion and you know that Allah has made it haram, okay? Now, supposing that brother or that sister used to smoke drugs before they were Muslim, and you found out, somehow, not that you should pry into somebody's affairs and not that you should advertise your sins prior to becoming Muslim. The Prophet ﷺ said, keep these things a secret because it's a matter between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But let's say for some reason somebody said, oh, this guy used to smoke spliff every day, right? So are you going to now say, well, maybe I should start smoking as well because he's been smoking for years before he became Muslim.
He went clubbing. Can I go clubbing?
Yeah.
It looked like fun.
The tattoo's no different, right? He got this tattoo done before he was Muslim, before she knew, right? So subhanAllah, that's how we need to view it, right? Now, if people unfortunately are, let's say, ignorant about their religion and decide that this is somehow going to influence them, then quite frankly, we need to educate our brothers and sisters to not think like that. And inshallah, they need to pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for guidance. What we should not be doing is then putting pressure on new Muslims who've got tattoos and saying, I'm sorry, because we haven't got our house in order, we'd like you to go through this very expensive, very painful treatment.
Yeah, good
your tattoos removed.
I remember what I was going to say now as well. There's been an evolution of tattoos as well, because I've been a Muslim now 18 years, so obviously when I was younger, women had tattoos. They were like, oh my God, his mum's got tattoos, she must be a tough woman or been in prison or, but because it's become so just commonplace now, and all the top pop stars have got tattoos and all the footballers have got tattoos and things like that, this is the influence. Yeah. So you know, the way we look at the way I look at tattoos today and see tattoos today, it was never like that back in the day. A tattoo was if you're a tough geezer or a tough woman. You know what I mean? That's what it kind of implemented. You know, guys got tattoos to make themselves look hard. You know, but now it's not. Do you get me? It's an evolution. Yeah. And you know, it seems strange to see somebody without a tattoo in this day and age now. Yeah, any footballer or anyone, you know, you're shocked if there's no tattoo there. Do you get me? And so this is the biggest problem we have, is when Muslim youth, and this is talking about the Muslims now, are looking up to these people as role models and thinking, oh, they've got a tattoo and whatever. Yeah. And you know, and just like I say, for the Muslim brothers who have tattoos, I'm pretty sure like if they could be removed tomorrow, they would have it done. Yeah. If it could just be, they didn't they never had it. Yeah. You know what I mean? But like I say, alhamdulillah, I wouldn't be. I mean, I know you probably don't feel this way, but there might be people out there that do. Yeah. I know. One sister was feeling this way about it. That, to be honest, no one's ever going to see her tattoos anyway. But anyway, the point here is this: it is nothing to be ashamed of. It's your time of jahiliyyah. It's your time of ignorance. It's your time when you didn't know, and now you know. Alhamdulillah. And I know we've said this, but it's just to re-emphasize it that was your life. You look at your tattoos and think, wow, that's what that's what I used to be like. That's what I used to think. And alhamdulillah, the transformation is. So it's nothing to be ashamed of. And again, to let the brothers and sisters out there in the world know, if you see someone with tattoos who are practicing Islam, you should say, mashallah.
Yeah. I remember a story actually of a sister who had a tattoo, and she disclosed it to her fiancé before they got married. She said, look, I have a tattoo. Is that going to be a problem? And alhamdulillah, Allah guided the brother, because he simply said to her that when Allah has forgiven you for something and has forgotten it, in other words, it's been erased from your record, what right do I have to judge you and hold you in contempt for something that Allah has forgiven you for? SubhanAllah, you know, these are the beautiful things that we need to think about. That if we, inshallah, see somebody with tattoos, and like you said, Hamza, and I think it's a very powerful thing actually, is to look at them and think, SubhanAllah, this brother or sister has been on this amazing journey, right? Allahu Akbar. And of ghafla, of ignorance, of being carefree, of doing whatever they want. And today, subhanAllah, they've submitted to the Creator. They now worship the Creator. And alhamdulillah, they've repented. How wonderful. Feel good for that person. Feel good for that person. Yeah. And if you are good to that person and you feel good for that person, know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is most beneficent, most merciful. And His bounty is limitless. And Allah will love you because you love people, you forgive people, you're kind to people, subhanallah. So even if you're doing it for selfish reasons, that Allah will be kinder towards you, will look at you with mercy, will shower His mercy on you, will shower His forgiveness on you, because you're very forgiving, because you overlook people's mistakes, which is the way of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? And know that Allah is noting these feelings that you are nurturing through the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through the nurturing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And know that Allah is rewarding you for those things. And know that Allah will inshallah soften your heart and bring you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you're harsh to people and you're judgmental to people, you look down upon people, you know, you're constantly, you know, putting others down and not concentrating on yourself, then know that no good will come out of this. You will not get closer to Allah with these type of traits, with this type of behavior. And it's a wise person. This dunya, this life is very short, right? And we have to try to do everything we possibly can. Because believe you me, it's not going to be our deeds that are going to get us into Jannah. We can't barter and pay the price for Jannah. The price for Jannah is too high, okay? We will never meet the price. But inshallah, if we do our ibadah, do our farad, then we try to do all of the other beautiful teachings of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, of being kind, of being forgiving, of looking at people in a positive way, even if there's something negative about a person. Subhanallah, look, when people talk about that in Islam, you're allowed to lie. In fact, we're not allowed to lie, but we're only allowed to what is called like a white lie. And one of the reasons that you can do something like that is if somebody comes to you with, witnessing or knowing about somebody's sin. Oh, that, I knew Abbas, and 20 years ago he did this and he did that and he did this and he did that. And supposing this brother actually knows that that was true, and he turns around and says, honestly, I have no knowledge of this. I don't know about this. Okay, or I only know good of this person. I only know good of this person. SubhanAllah, we're permitted to do that. In fact, we're encouraged to do that. Conceal the faults of your brother. Conceal the faults of your sister. And Allah will conceal your faults.
I think
that's the right attitude.
I think we more or less covered everything, haven't we? With and unless anyone's got anything else to add to the topic.
No,
I just want to close it. I want to just close it with one simple thing. I'm trying to paraphrase. I can't remember the exact quote, but it's something along the lines of, "If you know me from my past, don't judge me because I'm not that person anymore."
Mm-hmm.
So basically, if you think you know me from my past, like people probably know me from my past, there's things that I've done that I'd love to slap myself about. What you do that for? You know what I mean? But we're not that person anymore. And I've had issues. Obviously, when I first embraced Islam, I left my family and whatever. And I tried to get in contact with my girls, and her mum's their auntie came on saying, "Oh, you did this, you were like this, you were this, you were that," and I'm like, "Yeah, you're right." And it's you're drinking, you're gambling, yeah, devastating. But I'm not that person anymore.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I was such a person, but you should be happy now. I'm not that person.
If she disagrees with that stuff, she should become Muslim, no?
Well, this was the irony. This is what I was trying to say. With my ex, right? There were things she didn't like about me that Islam took away. So it's like I'm the upgrade. Do you get me? You get all the things you like about me without all the things you don't. SubhanAllah. Amazing.
Hamza 2.0.
Allahu Akbar.
All right, I think it's been a great stream. I don't know.
Thanks for letting me jump on with my wonky background.
Always.
I noticed it in the comments.
We'll sort out that green. You look like you got a beehive on your left.
I was fighting that with a tripod. Get the screen. All right, didn't smack me in the face this time. The thing was coming out. I've got it balanced on some boxes now. I had to turn the whole table around.
Look at mine. I've got mine balanced on some chairs. Just balance it on a chair.
Oh no! I jumped on late, didn't I? So inshallah.
I like Martin's green screen. It's very natural.
Yeah.
I swear he's had a fridge behind him and everything. I bet he could open it. So realistic.
Easy access.
Look at that! Wow! Like is that one of those 3D green screens?
Special effects.
Background.
People keep asking when I'm going to release the book, man. Honestly. We're going to be doing a stream soon, inshallah, with Ijaz. From Canada. We're going to rip into Christian doctrine. So it's going to be quite nice.
Do you reckon that'll be next week or coming soon, next few days?
Yes. I'm going to speak to him this evening, inshallah. There's a few things we want to go over. We want to, for example, the Christians bang on about this idea that the crucifixion is historical, and historians outside of the Bible have recorded it, and we want to demolish that myth, to be honest. And a few other bits and pieces. I know Abbas loves it when I demolish things.
Yeah. Smash it.
Ijaz is actually really, really,
he's amazing.
He's a top boy, man. He's a
amazing.
Top boy.
Jordan, what's our next stream anyway that we've got planned?
Our next stream is tomorrow, actually, on hygiene. Hygiene and Muslim. So, probably a lot to go through there as well. So,
inshallah ta'ala. And I think we're going to try, brothers and sisters, we're going to try, inshallah, to do a stream. I don't know if we've already scheduled it, Jordan, which is about coronavirus and how Muslims need to behave during a pandemic and also post-pandemic once we get a vaccine. Because there's a lot of, unfortunately, misinformation about vaccines out there. So I think Imran, inshallah, will join us. And inshallah, hopefully, we'll see. But my wife might be joining us as well, inshallah.
Oh, mashallah.
She's obviously doing her PhD on...
We're going to do something about Ramadan.
We are. for Ramadan, inshallah. I think probably
we
It's so
postponed that,
soon, isn't it? SubhanAllah. It's literally
Thursday, isn't it?
wow.
Yeah, so we'll put that in as well. Get a few of us on. That'd be a great one.
Because imagine people who've taken the Shahada in lockdown.
Yeah.
And Ramadan is on us.
I think Sister Adele, mashallah, she.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Subhanallah.
And
she's
Sister Sophie as well.
Mashallah.
And because they've got Muslim people that they could know, but they're not with them. They're you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I remember when I accepted Islam, it was October. So fasting was like from, I don't know, 6, 7 in the morning to like 3, 4 in the afternoon. Nobody told me about fasting in the summer, man. Ridiculous.
Kept it a secret.
I didn't sign up for this, mate. You know, honestly.
You probably thought this is easy. I don't know what the Muslims.
Yeah. I don't feel thirsty at all. It was like October. It was like October. I said, I feel like a cup of tea, but I don't need no water. Well, them summer months are something else. Alhamdulillah, may Allah reward us. It's gonna be a strange one this year, though. No Taraweeh, no iftars in the masjid, no meeting the boys. It's going to be wow.
We'd have to do
That's why these streams are really important, I think.
Yeah, we did last year. We were doing iftar to fajr or something. We were doing all iftars to sahur. All nighters.
My missus has told me to start memorizing because I'm going to be leading Tarawih. Like, what? You'll have a juz amma Tarawih.
Mashallah.
I don't know. I'm going to stretch it over 20 rakat. I think we'll be doing 8. Honestly, I'm doing one line at a time. Kullu Allahu Akbar.
Ikhlas all the time.
Ikhlas will take 4 rakat.
Over and over again.
No, alhamdulillah, I do know about 23 surahs, so alhamdulillah.
Mashallah.
But I've told the whole family, you know, in Ramadan we've got to try and get Juzama nailed down. We've got to just memorize Juzama. It's not that hard. Especially we're all at home. I mean, usually Ramadan, I'm out going to the markets, we'll go to the wholesalers, going to the shop, doing this, doing that, faffing around, making excuses and whatever. Yeah. Now it's that. That's it. I said to myself, I can't go on my laptop to play Warhammer during the day of hours of fasting. So alhamdulillah, that will encourage me then to do extra things.
Yeah, inshallah.
That Warhammer is addictive.
Warhammer, yeah.
If I'm not playing it, I'm watching it. How to play it, honestly.
No way. What's the strategy? Oh, bless you.
No, I have to watch somebody who's live streamed that campaign. Right? How did you do that? What did you do there? All right, I'm going to try.
Not making any comment. No comment.
Yeah.
You're gonna get like, is that halal?
It makes me
if you take it from me, it's halal. No, it's not.
Yeah, no.
Makes me feel old because I don't know what you guys are talking about.
You're not missing out, Abbas.
No, you are. You are missing out.
I find too many ways to waste time as it is without starting video games as well.
I know it seems really ironic, but for me, because of a lot of the part of the game is resource management, and it really sharpens up my resource management in life as well. I start looking at everything.
That's your excuse.
Yeah, and I'm sticking to it. See you online,
mate, you're so busy. I did this as well. Like you. In the last year, I've been so busy working, learning for the deen, all sorts, man. And now Allah's given us a chance just to, you chill out, mate. And so I chilled out for like good 2 weeks, playing computer games. And now I'm like, right, what can I do that's productive?
That's it. No, but it's good though, because what I'm doing, I'm overdosing before Ramadan begins. And then
the problem is, Ben,
I gotta get it in now.
The problem is that my waistline is chilling out as well a bit too much. That's the problem.
Yeah, I'm making bread all the time at the moment. I'm learning how to make different breads, and I've just I've got to eat that because I want to make another one. You know?
Like I said online, I think your house must smell fantastic, man. That bread all the time. Wow, waking up to the smell of baking bread.
That and the new library that he's got.
Am I frozen, or can you still hear me?
You're frozen, but we can hear you.
We better end the stream before I.
Inshallah.
It's like a ventriloquist dummy. Like
you can't laugh with that green screen.
Right,
assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Walaikum salam. Before we go though, I want to plug my channel.
We're gone, mate. We're gone.
Yeah. No, it says live still.
Oh, does it?
So subscribe to Bennett Group. So the intentions, I'm going to do some videos on how you can help other new Muslims around you.
That's very
So,
nice.
so stop new Muslims drifting away. What you can do, what you can stop doing, and so on like that. A bit like what we discussed today. So
Very
yeah,
interesting.
God, that picture of me frozen.
Also, don't judge others by how they look, because they could be sinning more than themselves. Your son or daughter could be sinning more than the other person.
Absolutely. Subhanallah.
All right.
Assalamu alaikum, bros.
Walaikum salam. That was amazing.
And Martin, Hamza, Jordan, everyone. Assalamu alaikum.